right. Well, now we're going to change gears completely and talk about an action item regarding proposed changes to the Board of Administration election process. As I know everyone here is well aware, we have 3 positions for the board on the ballot this year. Doug Hoffner and Kim Mom are here to present the item. And Doug, whenever you're ready, let's go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations on the election earlier today. We're both here, Kim, Mom, and myself, are to talk through this agenda item. It's like a forward change and a strikeout. It's basically making a modification to our election ballot process that reverts effectively to a language you had in the prior year pre this last election. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Kim to walk through the actual item itself and then take any questions they might have.
Good afternoon, board members, executive team. Kim Mom, CalPERS team member. The item in front of you is an action item regarding the board election regulation package. During the 2017 member-at-large election cycle, we received some feedback from our stakeholders regarding the placement of the signature and the perjury statement on the voting materials. So to address these concerns, CalPERS is putting through some regulations in order to move the perjury statement and the signature to the back of the return envelope. The regulatory change will result in a cost increase to the 2018 state school and public agency election of approximately $66,000 and an overall cost to the election cycle of $250,000. If the board approves the proposed regulations, the package will be submitted to the Office of Administrative Law and will begin the 45-day comment period. The one thing that I did need to point out is on the regulation attachment, the page, it has a strikeout in the title number, 554.7 strikeout 5. The strikeout 5 is a typo. It's always been 554.7, so please disregard that. This concludes my presentation, Madam Chairman. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, thank you very much, Mr. Lind.
I move we approve the proposed change.
Second.
Motion made by Lind, seconded by Taylor. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Brown.
Yes. You know, I and other candidates raised issues about the signature on the ballot and the number of other issues with this election cycle. And more importantly, there's a barcode that's actually on the ballot where we vote. And that barcode identifies the voter. It's not just demographic information. It identifies me and how I voted. And maybe CalPERS gets that information, maybe they don't, but the vendor clearly has that. And so I would suggest that we amend that motion to also eliminate the barcode or any other identifying information from the ballot. In this way, we comply with Article 2, Section 7 of California's Constitution that says that voting shall be secret. Without that, if you keep the barcode on the ballot, it is not secret. Somebody knows how you or I voted.
Mr. Hoffner, do you want to address that issue?
So, Ms. Brown, the barcode is not a part of the regulation. It doesn't stipulate the barcode any more than it stipulates the type of paper we use or anything else. So that's a process change, and we are looking into that right now with the vendor to design where we can research putting that barcode in the same place as the signature and the perjury statement. It's just that the barcode is not part of the regulatory package and therefore not in front of you.
I'd like to add it to the regulatory package because I want to make sure it doesn't end up on the ballot. If it's part of the regulatory package, then you can't put it on the ballot like it was this last time, and it never was before.
I have not heard a second to motion. So the motion, the amended motion has been seconded by Mr. Jones. A discussion on the amended motion. Mr. Costigan.
All right, so I'd just like to have a better understanding of what Ms. Brown is raising. Under the current voting process, can you just walk us through, not everybody, similar to the soup, alphabet soup, so just walk through it very quickly and what the regulatory change will bring?
The regulatory change is to remove the signature and perjury statement from the ballot and put it on the back of the return envelope.
So I'm
The
sorry.
barcode was also currently on the ballot. However, we're looking at moving that also to the back of the envelope. And we can do so just at direction of the chair. As opposed to making a change to the regulatory package, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible so that it will go through for the 2018 election. We still have to go through a 45-day comment period, and so we're trying to keep it very simple. We can look into making that change in the next election in the regulatory package, if so desired. But if directed by the chair that it's on the back of the envelope, then it's on the back of the envelope.
Okay, and
Right.
can you clarify what the barcode has, what information the barcode has?
The barcode tracks some demographic information, which is the information you will see on your February agenda item. It tracks male, female, it tracks the employer, it tracks the age group. That's the information that's part of
Okay,
the.
but not the individual's name, location.
Well, it would have the individual's name
Okay.
attached to it, because that's how we know, how the vendor knows whether or not somebody's voted
Okay.
only one time.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's not, it does not track how they voted.
Right, okay, thank you.
But just to,
Mr. Costa.
so I can understand, again, if you call, there's no tracker, there's no barcode. I mean, I
You're
guess what I'm
putting in
try-
a pen.
So what I'm trying to get at is there any distinction, do I learn anything else about someone because they file it by paper?
No, sir.
Okay, and so in this change that the barcode or signature will now be on the back of the envelope, okay, it's the same demographic information, so nothing changes. I understand Ms. Brown's concerns. There is no identifiable marker right now, whether I vote by phone, internet, other than ISP address, but, or ballot to tell you whether I voted or not, or who I am. Is that correct?
Under the current ballot?
Under the current ballot,
There's,
only demographic information.
yes, it's all just demographic information, either of the three ways that you vote.
So to the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion, if I were to direct that in this election cycle, the barcode be placed on the envelope and not on the ballot, and that we bring it back to include it in a regulatory package next year, would that address your concerns?
It would if the barcode or any other identification.
Any other identifying information?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so that is the direction.
Okay.
So would you withdraw your amendment?
Yes, I'll withdraw my amendment.
Thank you. Are you comfortable with that as well? Okay. So that is the direction that we will have the barcode only on the envelope this year, and that next year it will come back in the regulatory package.
And any other
So,
identifying
and
information?
any other identifying information. Thank you for yes, and that.
Just want to clarify
Yes.
that this is the beginning of the process.
Yes.
So the public who's not here today
Yes.
has a chance to weigh in and provide in their feedback. And so if proposed and adopted today, the beginning of this whole regulatory change
Yes.
and the process, and there's a 40-day comment period. They would come back in the March timeframe essentially to tell you if there's any public comment that we've received, report that to the board. If there's a notice or public hearing, that would take place at that point, et cetera. So we're at the very beginning of this overall
Right.
regulatory process.
Thank you.
Yes, you'll have a second chance in April to formally approve. But again, in order to meet the 2018 state, school, and PA deadline, we need it to continue
It
to
needs to move
process.
forward.
Right now, we're looking at a June 5th approval by Office of Administrative Law, and we mail out the ballots in August.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So the original motion made by Mr. Lynn and seconded by Ms. Taylor stands, and that is to adopt the language as proposed by, the regulatory language as proposed by the team, and that removes the signature from the ballot and moves it onto the envelope.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Before we move to, thank you for reminding me, Mr. Jelinek. Before we move to the vote, we do have one member of the public who wishes to speak. That's Mr. Jelinek. If you could identify yourself and your affiliation for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak.
JJ Jelinek, PERS employee who's on vacation.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, I would first like to congratulate David and Margaret on their election. I wish you both good luck and great success. The revised selection process had a number of flaws. The U.S. has a long history of secret ballot. The state constitution calls for votes to be secret. The election code forbids internet voting. The election code forbids personal identifying material on the ballot. The contract that staff entered into required that the ballot, not the envelope, have a printed identifier that identifies the individual vote. It requires the vendor to capture and make available how individual members voted. Those can be fixed by staff or direction of the chair. The regulations require the use of internet. The regulations currently require that the ballots be signed. The regulations require the ballots to be opened and scanned as they come in. I agree that signing the ballots is the biggest flaw and the easiest to fix, which this proposal does in part. Amending 554.7 requires the return envelope and not the ballot as be signed, and so it addresses that issue. But Regulation 44.8, formerly .6, provides in A2 that a ballot is valid only if it is signed. This should also be corrected. The board has deleted the previous provisions of A6. In that section, it said that ballots will not be opened prior to the deadline. That should be restored. Currently, Section B requires the ballots be opened and scanned to be validated as they come in. If the identifier is on the return envelope rather than the actual ballot, this early opening would not be necessary and secrecy could be maintained. I recommend that those corrections be made. A lack of participation is a problem. It needs to be studied and addressed, but that probably can't be done well in time for the next election. However, these immediate changes can be made quickly and should have no problems getting approved by the Office of Administrative Law. I urge the board to adopt them. I know the system's legal position is that only the Pearl binds CalPERS. I should point out the Government Code 1090, the Civil Service System, the DILS Act, the Administrative Procedures Act, Bagley-Keene, and the Public Records Act, and Connell versus PERS established that the likelihood of that provision prevailing in a legal fight is very low. I urge you to adopt the changes, and I thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, back to the vote.
Can I?
Ms. Brown?
Yeah,
It won't cancel. Sorry, guys.
that,
Hey, I was doing the.
Mr. Jelensek's comments do remind me of another issue I had just being new, getting the board books, and that is that we only have one page. It's 3 paragraphs of the regulation. So we don't have the full voting regulations. And typically when I read, these things, you need the pages before and the pages after. So, unless it's a phone book, I would like it to be included as a reference material so I can know, because Mr. Jelensek referenced other codes that I don't have in front of me. I do know that internet voting was an issue. The phone voting was disastrous, and those did not work. And more importantly, it did not increase the number of people voting, the percentage of people voting. And so it just seems like we should sort of get back to following the Constitution and making sure that our processes and procedures are fair and free, and most importantly, secret.
Thank you. Mr. Chung,
I'm sorry.
if you could turn your mic on, please.
Oh, it's on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't fully understand the page in before and after.
We only have one page of the voting regulations in our book, and there's more. There's a whole bunch more about the voting regulations that apply to CalPERS, and we don't have them here. And the California Code of Regulations are not one of the resources available to us. So I didn't know to bring the CC&Rs with me today.
Okay,
Oh,
noted.
I'm sorry. So how much do you want included?
I said as long as it's not a phone book, if it's 10 pages, that'd be great.
The regulation is 14 pages. In practice, we typically provide the section that's being edited, which is what we did today. But duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, Mr. Hoffner, I just want to go on record that in this last election process, we did not violate the Constitution. I know that was the contention made, but I just want to put that on record. We put that in writing before the election process and through the last election process, and we can reiterate that again if necessary, but I just want to put that on record that we didn't violate any rules or laws in this last election.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffner. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you all very much. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our day one of the board offsite. We've had some really outstanding discussions concerning our investment strategies and learned a great deal from our teams as well as from our visiting panelists. So let's, I don't know if they're still in the room, but let's take a moment to just thank all of the panelists and the team members. I think we all appreciate how much time and effort it takes to prepare for these offsites, so thank you. And thanks to all of you who are in attendance and who have been actively involved in all that comes before this board. For those in the audience, we are going to begin tomorrow's session at 9 o'clock back in this room. And for members of the board and executive team, please be sure to fill out the survey. Have a great evening, everyone. That concludes our meeting.